they put forth their solution in terms of the presentation itself, but just in terms of what we're doing, you know, what's the ask. You know, and they did all the publicity, and we went and did a presentation to them, and one of our new members, who's here, who wanted to do, I said, you're gonna do the presentation. I went with her, I helped her, but she did the presentation. So, want to give you another idea of something else, which is, this is something we're doing with the North Berkeley Library. I called up the library, and I said, hey, we'd love to do a night of climate change films with you. And he was like, yeah, love it. And so they are sponsoring a talk. We're going to give a talk at the North Berkeley Library and then show them, this is a great movie, Before the Flood, the Leonardo DiCaprio movie.
Oh, yes.
That's another, I mean, there's just so many places that you can do these. Okay, want to talk about, I'll just talk about something we're working on right now, which is, I had this idea recently about partnering again with these organizations and also doing outreach to, we're beginning to focus on and doing outreach to environmental justice organizations. And so I had this idea of showing the Leonardo DiCaprio film, drawing a bunch of people out from the public to see the film, and then having a panel with a bunch of different organizations that are working on climate change, so people knew who's, you know, to show the problem and then who's doing what, so people can plug in. So I called the Brower Center and I said, you know, we have this idea, I have this idea, what do you think? And she was like, yeah, it's just Earth Day's coming, we need something. So we're getting the Golden Theater the night before Earth Day, and we're gonna once again have several hundred people, I'm sure, coming to this event. Beautiful venue. We're gonna have tables. I've contacted, I don't even know how many, many of the same, League of Women Voters, Sierra Club is on, Transition Berkeley, Berkeley Climate Action, Berkeley Ecology Center, I'm forgetting, but and then maybe another 4 or 5 different organizations are going to be coming on, co-sponsoring this event. We're going to be on this panel, we're going to have tabling out in the hallway, and so again, coalitions, getting out there, and it does 2 things. It allows you to reach more people in the public, but it also gives us an opportunity to talk to these organizations, you know, about where we're coming from, and start to make those alliances and talk with them. So it's you know, and Earth Day is coming. There's lots of stuff we can do.
I don't know about
20
historically,
seconds.
but do you
20
have
seconds.
conservative groups that you're targeting?
No.
Is anybody actually targeting, presenting to conservative organizations in your chapter area?
I just talked to Jerry Hinkle about that, and he said actually we're from Marin County working outside of the county to do that, and so I thought that was interesting. I didn't get more than that, but
What was the
just.
question?
But the question was, is any chapter targeting conservative organizations?
Peter's done the Republicans in Marin County.
We're
currently in the process of trying to give a presentation to our local Chamber of Congress. So we gave a presentation to a certain branch of the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, which is called the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce Union Team. But we're currently in the process of trying to actually outreach to the greater Chamber of Commerce.
It's great. We reached out to I reached out to the chamber recently. I haven't heard back from them, but the Berkeley Chamber of Commerce is not a conservative organization. I mean, they don't have a lot of, no, I know. I'm just saying. I mean, personally, the way I look at it, this is just from being somebody in Berkeley, it's our job in Berkeley, as I see it, is to really get in there with the progressive organizations and have them understand this. You know, we're kind of in the middle of the progressive, you know, movement that's going on, and we're, you know, we can talk to these folks, and you know, it's important that we do that. So because that's who's in our community, that's who we're talking with. But we do talk to Rotary. We've been doing outreach to temples and churches, and so we do have that going on too. Yeah, back there.
April 22nd, our Earth Day, is also Support Science March. Are you tabling or doing any? doing anything with that?
I don't know, that's a good, probably, because I've heard it mentioned several times. I know I'm not, but I know that there's people in the organization that, and we talked about it at the last meeting. Our meetings are getting so big. Anyway, Michelle's gonna talk about it, you know, that, I don't even know everything that's going on.
In reaching out to the EJ community, community of color and that sort of thing, I strongly suggest the paper that we have just outside the door, 30 Ways to be a Better Ally, that a lot of times, a lot of us white folks will go into meetings with Black, Hispanic groups and then try to dominate them. And so we need to go in and kind of a supportive role in those communities, and we'll get more traction.
Mm-hmm.
Are there multiple copies?
Yeah, it's online too. We've got some hard copies in the back here.
Where is it online?
Just Google 30 Ways to be a Better Ally.
Elyce,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a related question about, we're talking about conservative organizations. There's so many of us in the Bay Area who are concerned about and working on this issue. Something was mentioned in the first meeting of the Alameda County chapter meeting that I went to, which was 2 months ago, about going into the Central Valley or other places to try and generate
Yes.
chapters in conservative
Yes.
organizations that have Republican representatives
Yes.
in Congress.
There's a meeting going on at lunchtime about that today.
Is that
Yes.
irrelevant? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That
Mary
is-
Selkirk is leading, I think there's a group today meeting at lunch about that.
Is that an open meeting?
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
okay.
Yeah. Either ask Mary or Jennifer Wood, they can tell you where it's gonna be.
Hmm?
I lead talk about Nixon Bay, and there's a lot of conservative organizations. It's rich. And I know this is Berkeley. I grew up in El Cerrito, but if we could somehow crack the nut, because I think you get more moderate Republicans, and anybody has things to share about tricks or ways of engaging with some of the Republican clubs and conservatives, I'd love to hear about it.
I'd like to hear that too. We've got a new club, Silicon Valley East, and this is something that we've talked about, is reaching out to the conservative groups in the East
Yes.
San Jose, Northeast area.
You should talk to Rob Beggs.
Yeah,
I
we know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just not- Other people in the group here.
Did Rob offer any suggestions?
You got us into the Republican convention. It was amazing.
I called the Republicans on campus at Cal several times and they never called me back. I think the same group that just sponsored this fiasco that just happened with this guy up in, anyway, I never heard back from him.
This is just a real basic question. Are the 6 people who are doing the presentations in your group,
Yeah.
are you all doing the same, or
No.
is it tailored to your audience in any way, or do you have different topics that, you present depending, I'm curious.
Our group is just starting the beginning of this year. What I've been encouraging them to do is I've been putting stuff up on the website and saying, go in and make it your own. I did, my presentation, I have a very basic presentation. I think it's very easy to follow. It's very graphic. It's not quite as cool as his, but it's pretty good. And I just say, I made this up, I took the basic presentation and just modified and made this up, and so I'm encouraging them to do the same thing.
But they all have the same ask, basically, the same.
We're trying to
there's
standardize
just
it, that's kind of
specific
yeah.
information that you want to get in it. Okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious because I just could imagine conservative high school kid, different groups,
Yes.
different
Yes, okay,
message.
good.
So-
So Ted Obar, who's one of our group leaders, he took the presentation and he changed it for faith groups. So he gave his own spin on it. He met with me, I went through the presentation, he took it home, he changed it, he made it, what worked for him. And so that's what people,
Yeah.
that's what they're doing, they're taking it and making it so it works for them.
Forgive me if you said this
Sure.
already, but, so your goal of the presentations is to get endorsements,
One of them.
one of the goals. And so you're asking the people who are attending if they belong to a group that might endorse or business?
Very
or-
often they do belong to a group, and we send endorsement letters. We've got the endorsement letter that's specific to carbon fee and dividend, and then we've got the one that's a general endorsement for climate action. So, kind of depending on the group, and we've been getting endorsements.
So, but you're always looking for a group endorsement, you're not
No, sometimes we ask for individual, you can ask for individual endorsements.
The constituent.
Yeah, I mean, I think the goals of these presentations, and we should talk about that, it's endorsements, it's coalitions, it's getting the word out, it's practice for us. You know, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to do these. So
New member.
growing your chapter, new members. So on
Another
that
thing
note,
is just saying the words carbon tax. So people need to get it in their head. It's
yes.
and people have to get used to it in order for them to adopt it.
Yes. So I think from there, I mean, we can do a little brainstorming. I think I'd like to now turn it over to Rochelle, because basically what I'm saying here is we're taking our efforts from endorsements, our strategic alliance. This is a new committee where we're going out and we're trying to work more with other organizations in the EJ community, just other environmental organizations. We have a team, and then we've taken the tabling, and we get a lot of names from tabling. Then all the people coming in from Meetup, who you don't get their email addresses from Meetup, by the way. I put an email out saying if you'd like to get on our newsletter, and I do get some that way. But the thing, let me go back to Meetup for a second, is that you can send people messages on Meetup. So I always send out, like the Monday of our meeting, I always send out saying, hope you come to the meeting tonight. Every single person on that meeting, those 60 people, whatever it is, they get a message. Our meeting's happening tonight, hope you come. You joined the Meetup, come on. So you can message people through the Meetup, and then they come to the meeting, or if they give you their email, you can get them on your mailing list. All the people we get from speaking and all the events that we're doing. So what our chapter's been doing, because we've been growing so much, we actually had a steering committee meeting. We've been trying to, and I think we're successfully, and a lot of it thanks to Rochelle, now have a whole team that does member engagement, and Rochelle's going to talk about how all this is funneling into our member engagement.
Yeah, thanks, Elyce. So I'm Rochelle Wheeler with the Alameda chapter, and I lead the member engagement team. And thanks to, there you go. All right. Let's see. Thanks to the amazing work that Elyce does and her team. I mean, every month she shows up and there's some new event or thing she's doing to pull more people into our group. Thanks to that, thanks to the national elections, we have had a huge outpouring of new members. Probably at least 150 new names have come to us just since November 8th. And we have about 75 people who have been to one of our meetings in the last year. So that's what we call our quote-unquote active list. And at our last two meetings, we've had 40 to 42 people. So that was January and February meetings. So it is awesome. It's also kind of daunting. Yeah. This is a lot of intake, and that's kind of where I'm working on it. And what we've seen in the past is that there are a lot of people, and I'm sure you know this for your own groups, who come into CCL and they're total self-starters. And they're like, I'm going to just do this and go out, and that's great. But then there's a lot of people who come, and you can tell they don't quite know how to engage. And they sit there, and they might come to one or two meetings, and then you never see them again. And we definitely were seeing a lot of that attrition in our group. And I'm sure we're still having some of that too, but we have so many new members that we're maybe not seeing the attrition we're having. So what we do when all of these names pour in from all these different sources, including from national and all the outreach work that's happening, is those come into, we obviously give those new names to national, and they send out the newsletter, and there's the intro call and everything. And then those new names come into our local chapter. And our goal now is to, within a week of somebody new coming from national into our chapter, that we will both send them an email welcoming them and also call them and welcome them. And we have a couple members here from our chapter who've done that and stepped up and made some of those calls. So I don't do all of that. I can't do all of that. It's a lot. So we've got a team now who's working on this. So we're trying to really welcome people and make sure they feel like immediately like we want them to be coming, we want them to be engaged. How can we answer questions from them? Once they get into onto our lists, we have a monthly newsletter. We call it a chapter briefing, and this is one of those things where we had a new member come, and I think it was, I think this was Cheyenne who's in this room, and came and said, I want to do a newsletter for our team, and so she got that going. And so now we have a communications team, and so they're doing the newsletters, social media, and probably some other stuff that I don't know about. So through that, we get out the information about our monthly meetings and also information about our other local events and our regional events. As Elyce mentioned, at our every monthly meeting we have, the first half hour, we ask new people to come, and there we do a half-hour orientation for new members. We have now someone from the member engagement team who comes and sets up a welcome table, so as people are coming in, we're welcoming them, we're giving them a name tag, and they're sort of, you know, rather than just wandering into a room and not knowing anybody. So I think that's helping. And then in our meetings, there's a lot of focus now on these teams, and the 6 teams are listed here. We've talked about some of those. And so on our sign-in sheet, we have those 6 teams listed, and we have people check off which teams they want to be part of. They can be part of multiple teams if they want to. And then all that information gets fed back into our active members list, and then we share that back out. I share that back out with the team leads, so then they can sort through that list and find out, okay, these are the 12 people who are interested in communications. This person's new, I need to reach out to them. So, so that's how we kind of do that feedback loop. We also are trying to do more social events. Sharon, who's here, hosted a social event last month. She's a very new member. She said, I'll open up my home, I'll have an event at my house. It was a fun event. We had some old timers, we had some new members there. We want to do more of those. We don't meet on Saturdays, we meet on Monday nights, so we're trying to get started sort of a listening party that Saturday morning, kind of a social event around that with some, you know, maybe breakfast, kind of potluck event and some socializing around that. And then, you know, we have ideas for other social events as well, happy hours that include some letter writing and things like that. So that's where we're at with it. Thanks.
I'll just add a couple of things. I want to say that, thanks. I think that what Rochelle was saying about attrition is really important. Like, one thing we were finding when we were, you know, before we started doing this is, like Rochelle said, people were coming in and I would get this feedback, like, we don't know how to plug in here. It's like, it's, so I think that that's really changing because this structure that we've set up here, our teams are media, the Lead Balance runs that, where we're people who are doing a lot of letter writing, communications, which I think is the social media part of it. I'm not even sure what that group does actually.
I was going to ask newsletter.
Oh, that's the newsletter. Which, okay, so here's
Social
another thing I want to tell
media.
you. The newsletter has made a huge difference because we have this newsletter now where we are telling people every month basically what's been going on, just locally, what's been going on. And I think we modeled it somewhat on the Contra Costa newsletter, which is really excellent. What's going on and what are the events that are coming up. So it's not like people are just coming and then they disappear and we don't see them. Now we have this way of keeping in touch with them. Really, really critical.
And it just goes out by email.
Yeah,
Email.
How is that just the people who've signed up for CCL?
We have,
So that's on the communications we actually pull from the national database, which we have over 500 people in our chapter that are, so that goes over 500 people.
Okay.
Yeah, and,
There's people who have signed up to CCL in some past event.
yeah,
been at
exactly.
a tabling event, or could be that they've been at a meeting, or could be that they
Or
plugged
from
in
the
through
national
national.
website,
And
yeah.
you can just get that if you're with the community.
Yeah.
right?
Well, you have to be, I think, a chapter leader or have access to it that way, so, yeah.
You can be designated.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
I'm sorry,
Do you only take people who feed from national? What about if somebody just comes to you locally and hasn't really done the national thing yet?
Every name we get, I mean, maybe this is partly because Tony is in our group, but it goes into national. I mean, if you have signed up a tabling event, if you have signed a constituent letter, we're putting you into the national database because, and that, I totally recommend that. People can always opt out. Like, they I mean, we're not shy about taking your email and putting it in there, so.
Well, not only that, because two things happen when you do that. They get the national newsletter,
Yeah.
and if like when we go to events, we often get leads for other chapters. So if you send them to national will distribute the leads.
Right.
But I also want to say, Rochelle, not only when somebody signs up locally, we don't just put them on the national, then they get on the we're contacting them locally too. So it's not just that it goes into national, we go through this whole process that Rochelle described to welcome them into the local chapter as well, and they get on the local briefing.
So when you send out your newsletter, do you use National's database?
Yep.
Okay,
We
and you can send
download-
a newsletter from the.
No, we use MailChimp. That's
Okay.
something that Cheyenne set up, and I'm sure she'd be happy to tell you
Okay.
more about that. Yeah, so.
We
Cheyenne's
have the
in
most
back, yeah.
dynamite newsletter team.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously,
And
great job. You and Nick have done like an
Nick is here
amazing
today,
job.
too. Yeah, Nick Despoda is here, and he works on that.
Yeah.
Is the National 501c3 nonprofit?
I think in terms of donations,
CCE
is.
The reason I ask is because Google offers free use of business apps to nonprofits or foundations and $10,000 of free Google AdWords advertising per month.
Oh, wow. Tell Tony, I mean, I don't know if Tony knows that. I might want to mention that to him. Yeah.
So when you're tabling and stuff and you're taking down this,
Yeah. Can you speak up a
how
little?
do you input that into the national database?
There's a form that's online on CCL Community, just that
the
you
roster.
can then, it's a
It's just
data, it's a, well, it's a data, it's like a spread, and then you just mail it to the membership person
And
of
that's
national.
just accessible in the national.
It's on
community?
CCL Community, yeah. I can tell you more about where that's at, but yeah.
I want to give you one other idea about outreach that I forgot. So I had like a night, I called it a night of Klein, what was it? God, what did I call that thing? It was about food.
At your house?
Food. I forget, but I had this night at my house where I invited a bunch of my friends. I foods, films, and something. I forget, but it was about climate. I showed the Leonardo DiCaprio film. I invited a bunch of friends over. I fed them pizza, and they paid basically to come over to my house. I have a big screen TV to do that. And the reason I bring this up is a couple reasons. First of all, I mean, I raised some money for the chapter. That was nice. It was fun. But one of my friends got really turned on to CCL. He had just about 2-3 weeks ago, he just had a big show. He's an incredible artist and photographer. Gave us half the money of what he sold from his show and is now volunteering to do all of our graphics. So you never know. You never know, And I just did that on a whim just to, let's just raise some money, have some fun, So, and also, I just got an email recently that the National is offering copies of Merchants of Doubt, and they'll give you $100 or something if you do an outreach, to do some fundraising using so these movies are like, they're gold, because people most people have not seen the DiCaprio film, despite the fact it was on YouTube for free for a while, and they're interested. So, I expect the Brower Center, we're gonna be packed the night, for this Earth Day event. So use these films, they're really great draws. The other thing is, Tony pulled, have all of you seen the part of Years of Living Dangerously that's just about CCL? So Tony has done a thing, he's pulled just those 22 minutes out that are just about CCL, so it's not jumping back and forth.
Oh, good.
And so when we do the night at the Brower Center for Earth Day, we're gonna show that in addition to the other films. So, use these films. They're really great draws. They're really great resources. What in terms of
Buy one
fundraising.
copy of the film?
I'm going to buy the DiCaprio film's being shipped out April 1st. I'm buying a copy of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I speak quickly to
Sure.
attrition too? One thing I wanted to mention, you mentioned that again, was just that what we really saw too is that we needed to think about with all our teams, what are entry-level activities that people can do? And not like going out and doing a presentation first thing. Like some people, they're comfortable with that, a lot of people not so much. So So that's something we've talked about, and that could be as simple as typing up those names into that spreadsheet, or making 3 calls to welcome new people, which some people here have done that, which has been awesome. Even members, even somebody who has just come to their first meeting the month before, I'm asking them to then welcome the next, group of people. So, and people are happy to do this, so.
Do you have a script by any chance for welcoming new members? Because Contra Costa chapter,
Yeah.
we're starting to do just what you're doing, decentralizing those calls.
Yeah.
And I've been charged with trying to write up a little script or tip points for people.
Yeah.
And you're having new members do it, so do you
Yeah.
do you give them
I've
anything?
given them bullet points, and Irmgard and Sharon who are here can attest to, they've asked for scripts, some of them, but I've said, well, here's some bullet points. So I think it would be great to also have a script, but we just have a couple bullet points, which are just
Can we
thank
contact
for-
you about getting them on the show?
definitely, yeah.
Thanks.
Can I share an event we did that I think was really
Please
cool?
do, yeah, in
Because
fact,
it
I
might
invite
give-
everybody to do that,
Might give you ideas. I'm from Santa Cruz, and you guys are so organized and ahead. In Santa Cruz, it's like herding a bunch of old climate cats. It's really hard. But anyway, and we're getting a lot of new members too, but a number of months ago, and I'm a fairly new member, but my wife is the group leader, so I've been helping her, so, I've kind of been a part of it for a long time. So they put together an event with the Monterey group. We're in Monterey Bay, and in the middle of in between us is Elkhorn Slough and Moss Landing. And they put together a climate event, a sea level rise event, and there's a member somewhere up here who's, whose daughter daughter and son-in-law have a company that gives tours of Elkhorn Slough on a pontoon boat. And so we put together an event, but it was a invite only. And they tried to get people the assistant to one of the representatives, somebody from the water boards, people from media. We invited the head of the Elkhorn Slough place, and so there were all these interesting people, and only a few CCL people. There's only so much room on the boat. And once we all got there, it just totally took care of itself, because there were all these interesting people, experts, and some climate person from UC Santa Cruz, and they just did it. The tour guide gave room to everybody else to talk, and they were talking about sea level rise, and we had also, and then we were going to have lunch, and then there was going to be a presentation. Originally it was going to be Gary Briggs, who's a professor at UC Santa Cruz, give a presentation and kind of be the boss, but there was miscommunication and he dropped out. But then it still worked out. What we didn't have time for was to give a big CCL sell, but we did make all these contacts, and just as an observer, it was wonderful.
Yeah, so, thank you, in charge, thank you, the last thing.
This is out of order. Did anybody take a picture of you in the group? Show us an action.
Talked about they put forth their solution. We also had, one of the members of our local chapter, Lori Williams, is an expert on offsets, and she talked about the problems with offsets. So we really approached it like a educational forum, and it worked out that way, and so much has come out of that. And it really got us on the map in Berkeley. People then began to hear about us more, people within the environmental organizations. So putting that out there as an idea. I'm going to be putting a lot of ideas and see what you think. Of course, we do tabling, and we actually now are putting together a committee that just does tabling at events. Rochelle will be talking a little bit about how that's all working out. Another thing that evolved, just in terms of how our chapter evolved, we started going after endorsements of city councils, and we've got endorsements in the last year or so. Let me just back up here. Lee and Mary did a presentation in front of the Berkeley Ski Club, right? One of the guys, I think he might have even been the president of the club, he's here today, Milt Latta, loved it, grabbed it, came to a meeting, comes to the meeting, and says, I'm gonna get the endorsement of the Berkeley City Council. First meeting, he did it. We've gotten the endorsement this last year of Berkeley, El Cerrito, Albany, and Richmond. Just from, and most of that is from new members coming in, like the presentation, like what we're doing, and said, I'm just gonna try and do something. So that's another thing. And I think honestly, we didn't leverage those enough because we didn't get enough press about that. But you know, we're still evolving, and because we have so many new members coming in, we're gonna be able to, in the future, I think, get more press and make people more aware of what we're doing. Okay. I want to talk about a couple other things. Meetup. We have started using Meetup as a way to attract new members and do outreach. Really effective. So I believe this is how it works. If you set up a Meetup group, it's free if it's under 50 members. We quickly made it over 50 members. I mean, like within like a couple of weeks, just by putting a Meetup group. I called it the Climate Solutions Meetup. And now I have a way of communicating with all those people who signed up. They didn't all come to meetings, but we've been having several new people coming into meetings from the Meetup groups. So I suggest you look into Meetup. If you already have anybody in your group who sponsors a Meetup and they're paying for a Meetup, you can do 4 Meetups. So they may not be using their Meetup, and they can do the 4th Meetup. Yeah.
So is the meetup specifically for CCL or Climate Solutions in general?
I called it Climate Solutions Meetup because if I called it, Citizens Climate Lobby, people aren't gonna, I'm not trying to appeal to people who are in Citizens Climate Lobby.
But are they expecting more?
When I wrote it down, I explained who we were, and I said where we meet and when we meet, and we encourage, okay, here's another thing, encourage new members to come a half an hour before we always encourage new members to come half an hour before our regular meeting, so we give them an orientation, get them oriented into the meeting. So use Meetup. It is, I mean, I can say in our area it's working really well as a way to attract new members. And I'd say almost daily I get people joining the Meetup.
Silicon Valley North uses it, and it's brought in a lot of them.
There you go. There you go. So here's some more. So let's see. Okay. We have an outreach. I'm the head of we have an outreach committee. I'm the head of the outreach committee for Alameda County. It's kind of a misnomer because the outreach committee that I'm working with are people who are just working on doing presentations. We have another group that's evolving now that is doing strategic alliances, and another group that's just doing tabling, which doesn't mean we don't work together. Like if we have an event, one person might speak and say, I need some people from tabling to come. But in terms of what I'm working on is my team is working on presentations. And what I set out for a goal for this year was to get a core group of people, at least 6, and I think it's going to be more, who are committed to doing at least 1 presentation a month. We meet monthly. This is in addition to our regular meeting. We meet monthly. We practice presentations. We view other people's presentations. We talk about, things. Well, there's a lot of things we need to talk about. Like I just went to Andy Gunther's presentation. Excellent, next door. I'm sure we're going to watch. I'm sorry, this gentleman here is from a new member of our chapter, and he's videoing this, and we're going to watch, hopefully, what you videoed for us. Thank you. And we use this group as a way of, I'm using this group as a way of getting people trained up to speed so they can go out and do presentations on a regular basis. One of the things I did for the people in the group is I put together, okay, first of all, one of our new members put together a Google Docs for us. So again, here's just some more ideas. Our outreach team has Google Docs. And what we upload to that is stuff like this, which is basically a cheat sheet. Here's the link to the literature you should bring with you. Here's the link to the endorsements that you should bring with you. Here's the link to the proactive outreach. Here's how you get slides. Just a real cheat sheet